What's up, it's Silly City back with episode number 13 of Hawaii Behind The Recordz. So this week we're gonna pivot a little bit and we're gonna switch up the format where I'm gonna explore the different genres, and together with ChatGPT I'm gonna do some research what are like the drum patterns and the melodies and like key elements of a genre, and then I try to make some tracks. In the video last week I thought I'm just gonna like jam a little bit and produce a track, but while like pre-producing and preparing the content I saw it's a little bit difficult, and my idea was that the videos get shorter and I have less post-production to do. And if I just jam and also have to explain, it's kind of difficult for me because I like to just lose myself in the music or explain, and it's difficult to like have both at the same time and still be efficient with like the whole content. Also, like right now in the beginning, not a lot of people are watching those videos, so those videos are more for me, and therefore I just try to make this as a learning documentation for me. Like, it's not gonna be perfect. Like, I think during the video I'm gonna look a lot at my notes just to like have it easier to say everything and not forget things and have to do retakes. And like I said, it's easier for me than in post-production. And yeah, that's just how it's gonna be. With this new format, we're also gonna start the Unfinished Beats Volume 2. Like, the Volume 1 of the Unfinished Beats was a lot of just like techno with one device. And right now I try to like explore different genres with like all of my devices and try to make different tracks. And yeah, right now I just like prepare some beats and I'm gonna finish one tracks. Like, most of the time it's gonna just be like 3-4 beats that I'm gonna prepare, and I see like which one I dig the most or like feel most inspired to finish the track, and this track is gonna be available as free download on Saturday. Alright, so let's just dive in. I'm gonna start with the drum pattern because for me like drum patterns are the most important thing for a genre, or like just defining like the broad genre. And like the first important thing is like the tempo, the BPMs, and trap music, like we're gonna do a trap beat this week, is most of the time 130 to 180 BPMs. And like for me, I like the 140 BPMs, I like them really a lot, also with the whole dub and techno style, so I'm gonna focus my trap beats more on the 140 BPMs. And yeah, if you look at the drums, there are basically two things, and those are the sounds. And the most basic drum is just like a kick, a snare, and a hi-hat, like you have on a normal like drum. The other important thing is like the pattern, and this is basically how the sounds are arranged within like a certain grid. So first, and I think most important in trap music, is like the kick, and together with the kick there's always the bass. Like the kick and the bass, most of the time they like play at the same time, and either there is like a normal kick or a ghost kick. And the ghost kick is basically a kick, but it's only played with like half the velocity, or like just like half the intensity. I think everybody that has listened to trap music knows that the trap music has like a 808, distinct 808 bass. And like there's a little bit of history to the 808, like you can look up the whole lore, but basically it was intended to like simulate a bass, be a synthesizer for a bass, but it sounded kind of weird and distorted, and like it got a little bit discontinued, and then like hip-hop producers started using it, and like it just like had a unique sound. And I think nowadays like people just like those low basses and those distorted sounds. And yeah, therefore like the 808 is often like heavily distorted, and it can be easy long like boom, or like just like short boom. Yeah, and the kick is always together with the 808, or like most of the time. If we talk about the pattern of the kick and the 808, it's basically on the root downbeat. This is basically the first beat when you start a track, like the first bam. Together with the downbeat, you also have like other beats where the kick hits, and those are syncopated. Like, this is kind of a weird word, and I often came across it, and I asked ChatGPT to explain it to me. And it basically just means that like not every kick is on the downbeat, so it's not bam 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 bam. It can be bam ba 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 bam bam ba 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 bam bam, but you always have like the first on the downbeat. Another thing that's important for the 808 are basically glide notes. And this is also something I heard quite often but never really knew what it was. So I asked ChatGPT, and it basically said that it's like, instead of the notes going from bam bam, it's like bam wham. It has like this transition from the one note to the other. And often on like keyboards or synthesizers, you have like two like rolls on the left, and like one most of the time is for like exactly this glide. You can press a note, and if you go up, it glides a little bit up, it gets a little bit higher, and if you go down a little bit lower, and you can basically use that to like just make smoother transitions between like the different notes of the 808. The next important thing for the drums are basically the snare and the clap. And the snare and the clap are like most of the time together, like they can be layered, and layering basically means that they play at the same time, that you hear like the snare and the clap at the same time, and like together they give a richer sound to it. The sound of the snare is quite tight and also like a little bit light, and then the clap has a lot of reverb on it, and there can also be like ghost snares, which is the same as a ghost kick, so you play the snare not with the whole sound or with the whole volume, but just with half of it or even less. If you look at the arrangement of the snare and the clap, it's usually on the 3. So if you think of a beat, you can divide it into 3 parts, and like the first is like the downbeat where we had the kick like bam. And then like usually if you have a 4 to the floor beat, it's like bam, 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 bam. You always have like this downbeat. And now if you say the snare is on the 3, it's like bam, tack, bam, tack, bam, tack, bam, tack, you know, like always like, yeah, on the 3. When I created the beats and always put like the snare on the 3, like sometimes it feels a little bit slow, and what you can do then is like basically add another snare or a ghost snare on the 1, and then you have like a little bit more movement and it feels faster. The hi-hats are another important part of a trap drum beat. And basically you have an open closed head variation, and the closed head is like if you think of a classic acoustic drum, you have like the hi-hats that you can like open or close, and you just have it closed and you hit it then. So it's a little bit like shorter and tighter. And if you have an open hi-hat, it's basically if it's a little bit open and it has more like backtail sound, you know, like if you hit it, it's not like tack, it's like tsh. Those hi-hats, especially the closed hats, are often in like an 1/8 or 1/16 pattern where it's just like ta 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 ta. And if you have like this repetitive like 8th or 16th like ta 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 ta, you have to see that you make some pitch variations so that the hi-hat sometimes is a little bit higher or lower pitch, just to have some variation on movement. And you can also adjust the velocity, so some hi-hats may be hit a little bit harder, some a little bit softer, and this just gives a groove into it. Another thing you can do to add some movement to the hi-hats is just to add some swing. And swing basically means that there are not like even spaces between the hits of the hi-hat, with which you basically have if you use an arpeggiator or something like automated. And this just like gives a little bit more human feel, so it's not robotic like tack, 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 tack. Yeah. You hopefully gonna hear it in some of the later beats. Like, I don't know, maybe my sounds are cringe as fuck, but it is what it is, you know. Another thing you can do is like just add triplets, and the idea of triplets is basically that instead of dividing the beat into like 4 quarters where you have like the 1, 2, 3, 4, where we had the kick on the 1 and the snare on the 3, you can also divide it into thirds where you have like just 1, 2, 3, and then again 1, 2, 3. So instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, you have like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And this just gives a little bit another bounce and like space into the whole hats. And what you can do then is like just in the last beat or like the last half beat, instead of doing like only 8th, you can make like 16th triplets. And so it's a little bit faster, but also offbeat. The last thing that comes to the drums are like basically percussions and effects. And this can be like, most of the time you hear some rim shots in trap beats, or like bongos and toms for the groove. You can have some reverse snares, so instead of like having the snare, you play it like in reverse, so backwards, and then it sounds a little bit more like a riser. You can add some crash and cymbals, and also like just some open hats for on the drop. And yeah, crash and cymbal is also similar to like a hi-hat sound, but like more with a backtail, like other effects that one can use is basically the gunshot or sirens, vocal chants, breathing, or like ad-libs, as you may have already heard in a lot of trap beats. Alright, so this is the drums. This is for me like one of the most important things. So also to switch it up a little bit, we're gonna dive into some beats that I created in Ableton and just show you like how I did some beats. Alright, so before we dive into the first beat, I'm just gonna quickly explain a little bit something about Ableton. Like, I think most people use this view in Ableton where they have like the whole track. I started to use this version a little bit more because then I can just have like my drum samples and just play them. And yeah, you hear here basically just like simple drum and hats. Then I can add some snare, and then I have like here my elements, and then I come with the 808. But to be honest, like in this beat, I thought the 808 was a little bit goofy. What I did was just like take the first beat of the 808 and like use it as a MIDI. And like it's a different vibe. I don't know if I like it. Like I don't know, it was just like creating a little bit, like playing with the drums and the snare, and then also playing with the 808. But this just shows that like the 808 can make a lot of difference in the vibe of the track. Like if I have it like this, or like the other version like this. Yeah, so this is like one of the most basic beats, and why I use this mode is basically like I can play those parts and like just arrange what elements I want to have, and then I can just go through here to the different parts. Here I can like just make the setting that it syncs every 4 bars, so I always have like 4 bars that are like similar, and then it will be recorded here, and then I have like my bass song structure and can like just adjust. But this we're gonna see like in the second part of the tracks. Here you have another basic beat, like here are the drums. And then here I have the kick and the 808 together, so I can just play this here. And here, I think I just used like a kit I had in Ableton, like nothing too special. And then, yeah, here just like playing an 808. And what I started here was just like adding some more like ambient instruments. Yeah, some bells, like I think I just played around a little bit. Then you could do like just take out the 808, you know. And this I could record it and have a little bit of a track. But to be honest, like I didn't dig the beat too much. Like I don't know, it was just like more playing around, like seeing, okay, what instruments do I have in my notes, what chords could I play, and so on. Yeah, so that's that, and like with the theory about like the instruments, I'm gonna continue right now. Alright, another important part if we want to create a song or a beat is not just the drums but also like instruments and melodic elements. I'm not gonna dig too deep into those topics because it depends a lot of like style and personal preferences, but I'm just gonna lay down what I have like explored together with ChatGPT, and yeah, take it as inspiration. For me it's a documentation, and yeah, here we go. The sounds of like trap beats are often dark and eerie. You can use atmospheric melodies. You can also use some bell plucks, synth pads, and piano strings to get this vibe. You can use synthesizers and arpeggios for movement. You can like layer the pads with like different sounds to get this whole ambient vibe. You can also add some like drones in the background, some bass drones, just to like give some more space to the atmosphere. If we talk about melodies and keys, like all the trap beats are in Drake's favorite chord, like the minor chords, A minor. The chord progressions are often simple and repetitive, where you just have like 2 or 4 chords that you loop. If you talk about chord progressions, like I don't want to go too much into the theory, but it's kind of important because I'm gonna talk about like certain numbers in a key. And like the first example is like the 1, the 6, and the 7. So what does this mean? Like the 1 is always like the root chord. So if you say we have like the A minor key, the 1 is like A minor, just like the chord A minor. Now in like music theory, chords have like a certain like pattern, like what is harmonic with each other. And you always have like 7 keys that are in the same octave. Like they depend on which chord you have, but it's just how it is. But always, like if I say the 6, it's like the 6th note in this progression. So if you have A minor as 1, the 6 would be like F, and the 7 would be G. And then the 8 would be one whole octave, that would be again then like A minor. So I hope this kind of makes sense. Just think that you have like a key that you use, then like the root is like the 1, and then if you go like all the way with the harmonic keys in the order, you can easily look that up on Google or whatsoever, and then like basically the number that's given there, like here 6, it's like the 6th thing. Other progressions that ChatGPT like suggested for trap beats were like 1 4 5. This would be like again in A minor. It would be the 1 would be A minor, 4 would be D minor, and 5 would be E minor. And another progression would be like 6 7 1, and this is basically like the first but in another like order, and this would be F, G, and A minor. You may have noticed that like I only said like 3 chords, but it's 2 or 4. And basically what you can do, you can just use like the first and the second one of those, or you can do like the first, the second, the third, and then again the second. So to put it here again in the example with like A minor, 1 6 7, and then again back to 6, like 1 6 7 6, A minor, F, G, F. Yeah, at least that's my approach. I don't know if that makes sense or explains something to someone or just makes it more complicated. I know I could add some graphics that makes it like more intuitive to understand, but as you know, I'm too lazy for post-production. Another important thing for a trap beat are like ambient sounds, like background elements and effects. Here I'm just gonna quickly go through it, what I have on my notes. Often what you can use is like a reverse piano or synth to make like this eerie music. Then you often have this tape hiss or like vinyl crackle that, you know, like just this. You can use some low pass filler or drones like I already mentioned, like just to fill some space. You can use reverb, heavy vocal chops and phrases. This is something I kind of started to enjoy, like just recording my own like vocals or ad-libs into like those beats. You're gonna hear this in the later beats that I'm going to show you in a bit. Other things you can use is like basically risers, like white noise, reverse snares, and synth risers. This is just like this that you often have before a drop, just to like build up. You can use impact hits. This is also something I had to ask ChatGPT. This is basically like on the drop, you often have like this gunshot or like this like extra 808 or something. Those are basically impact hits. It could also be like a down riser or something. You can use like bass drops at transitions. Like I said, some tape stops or like glitches. Like tape stop is just like where you just like remove something or just like pause the whole beat to make some variation. You can use 808 like glide and slide, like I mentioned in the beginning, and also like reverse cymbals and snares, just like smooth transitions and like risers. The last important thing, if you want to go from a beat to a track, and this is something I'm really like exercising right now with those beats, is song structure. So how do I get this basic beat into a whole song? And here there are different formats. In trap you have the verse hook formats. So one more music theory thing I have to introduce, because it's going to be a reoccurring thing in the song structure, and this is a bar. A bar is another way of describing the length of music. Like I mentioned in the beginning that you have a beat, you can divide the beat into like quarters or into triplets, sometimes for hi-hat rolls. But like if you repeat the same beat like 4 times, you basically get 1 bar. So 4 beats are 1 bar, and most of the time this 1 bar is like a basic beat, like a real simple basic beat. It can be like a 4 to the floor, like just bam, 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 bam. This is like 1 bar. And if we talk about like song structure, like you often heard like an intro, a hook, or a verse. And most of the times those are like 8 bars or like 16 bars or like 4 bars. Usually you have in trap beats an intro in the beginning, which is like 4 to 8 bars, and I think most of the people know what the intro is. But what it defines in the song structure is that you most of the time just have some ambient soft sounds, or like a piano or a sample or something. And most of the times you have some filtered drums, or like the kick is missing, or you just have a low pass, a high pass filter. And yeah, and you can also like just add some effects and risers into the intro, just to lead up into the next part. After the intro there is the hook, and the hook is basically the most known part of most tracks. It's also the simplest and most repetitive part. And here you come in with the full drum, so you remove the high pass filter, you have the heavy 808 that comes in, you have like the full on melodies with like more instruments, and you add like this hi-hat rolls, and you can also like layer the snare and the clap a little more. After the hook, most of the time you go into a verse, which is like 8 to 16 bars, and here you have some variation in the 808 and the drums, just like to switch it up a little bit. You also have like simplified and filtered melodies, so it's not that noisy, not so much going on, that you have space for like the rapper's flow. After the verse you can add like a pre-hook, which is like 4 to 8 bars, and this is basically a little bit of breakdown. You can filter out drums, or like just make the melodies and the 808, and yeah, use some reverb and delay. And this is basically just to add some more variation, or like a different part, and yeah, switch the whole beat up a little bit before you go back into something that's already known, like the hook, and you're gonna do a hook repeat. And it's basically just like the previous hook, possibly some extra elements just to have like more impact. You can pitch a little bit the vocals and melodies and just add them on. And after that, basically it's up to you. Like if you want to add another verse, you can easily like repeat the same thing you did in the first verse, maybe like switch up the drums a little bit more, or the snares, add some other instruments, or like just having like another verse is like enough. And then you can again go into a pre-hook, or like the whole hook. This is up to you, and like what you have on your disposal. Also, like, do you have a rapper, different rappers? Do you have like enough bars? But like in modern age, most of the tracks are like 2 to 3 minutes, so that could already be enough. And then like in the end, you basically have a simple outro, again like 4 to 8 bars, where you like gradually remove some of the elements, like filter some of the drums out, and just like make some reverb tails, just like to end the track. Yeah, so song structure, I mean, it's something I'm still working on, and I'm gonna show you my progress. So let's just dive into 2 more beats where I already did some structuring from the bass beat. So here we have another beat, so we have the 808 and the kick. And here you can see like I exported this from the MPC, that's why there's no MIDI. Like some heads, percussions. I think this beat, like I just did it on the key 61, it's a little bit loud. And like I just exported like all the tracks, and then I had this. And this is like just the bass loop version, and then I also have another version where I basically recorded those tracks or like this beat into a track with structure. So like I mentioned before, like I had this bass loop here, and like I could just play certain parts and record it, and then like you have here the different parts and you have the overview. So if I start a track, like you see it was just like the ambient, then I start adding some like hats in it, then this click, some snares, and then at a later point like the 808 hits. And you can see like certain elements I haven't used, like those are just for the second part or the bridge breakdown. Then here like I just also like played a little bit with the 808, made it a little bit different, you know, like just to switch it up a bit. And then here we have another section, and here basically it's full, it's everything playing. And then we have also a little bit of an outro. What I also added in this track, and this is like I mentioned, something I kind of started enjoying, is like just having some own vocals. So this is basically just me recording like my breath, I guess, and like adding some EQ and reverb, and yeah, basically that's already it. Yeah, and that's basically the track. Like it's nothing world changing, but like for me it's a good training to just like have variation into tracks, learn structure, arrangement, also like working with not too much things, but like using them in a good way or that they hit correct, and also like just playing around a little bit with my own vocals. Yeah, I still have to adjust two, three minor things that I don't like, maybe add some risers and impact hits. But yeah, that's gonna be the first track that I'm gonna release in the Unfinished Beats Volume 2. And before we skip to the TLDR, I also have another track that I started. But yeah, I think maybe I'm just gonna keep that back as an unreleased track, or maybe like just have it as a unofficial summer mixtape track. I don't know, but I'm gonna show you a quick preview. First, I'm just gonna show you the drums a little bit, like what I thought of funny things. That's that. Then we have the 808s and effects. No, wrong 808. It's this one. This one is off. Then just some melodies. So what I did is the same as with the beat before. Like I had this bass loop and I played like the patterns and like recorded it, and then got like this song structure. Then I added some effects again, like ad libs and so on, and just played a little bit around. Yeah, this is basically like the whole track. Like I'm not gonna show you everything. I think just like hear a little bit the end of the first hook and the bridge. Like here I have again some elements added like from my own vocals, and yeah, like removed some drums. You're gonna remove the kick. Yeah, just like also those snaps, like I recorded them in. I think I have to adjust the volume a little bit, but yeah, is what it is. Then here like not the full melody, just like some like bam bam, and then yeah, it's again like kind of simple. I have to see if I want to add some more things to it. Like I don't know, I think it's chill for now. But yeah, I don't know, we will see, you will hear. And yeah, that's just like me playing a little bit around, like playing with song structuring, arrangement and so on. And yeah, I think now we're ready to go back to the TLDR and wrap this whole episode up. Alright, TLDR of how I do trap beats. I always use 140 BPMs. I use heavy and distorted kicks and 808s that are always on the 1 and also have some syncopation. I use snare and claps that are layered on the 3 or on the 1 and the 3. I have open and closed heads. The closed heads are on the rolls of 8ths and 16th. You can also use some triplets in the end for variation. We use atmospheric and eerie melodies. We use the minor chords. It's simple 2 to 4 chord progression loops. We can add tapirs and vinyl crackle, a lot of reverb. Then we also use some low pass filter, and the song structure is a simple verse and hook structure. Alright, that's it for this week, the first genre-specific HWY Behind the Recordz. I hope you could learn something or like enjoy the beats. For me, like I said, it's just documentation of my learning process. And yeah, next week we're gonna focus more on like a Dembow beat, which is a little bit like this reggaeton YB beat, but again, like in my interpretation of it. And yeah, until then, I hope you all stay healthy, have a nice week, enjoy the sun, and yeah, see you, bye!